Hello, and welcome to the Magick Moments podcast with myself, Dan Harvey, and my wife, Kizzy Harvey. In these podcasts, we seek to discuss, debate, and learn about the things that truly matter. These conversations are meant for a mature audience, as is the language. If you have a delicate mentality or sensitive ears, you may be triggered. All views expressed here are our own opinions, even when quoting facts, and we do not expect you to take what is said here at face value. All information should be critically assessed and researched before coming to a final conclusion. Your personal intuition always takes primary importance. And finally, while we encourage debate and discussion in the truth discovery process, being disrespectful or being unreasonably disruptive will not be tolerated. Words are powerful, words can change your life, and once you see, you cannot unsee.
Hello! Good evening.
Welcome to episode 6.
Which did say episode 5 a minute ago. I've stressed Dan out. I've cut it a bit fine, haven't I, love?
If by fine you mean literally just before we come on, yeah.
Yeah. It's been a busy week, which we are going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about. So good evening, everyone, or it could be good afternoon, good morning if you're in a different country, or if you're watching us on catch up. So if you are here on catch up, please do post it in the comments, because then we know if people like to watch us or not. And also it really helps other people see it as well, because the good old Facebook algorithms.
And do say hello so that we know that you can hear us and see us.
Yeah, because
everything is fine.
I also did move the microphone and unattach all the things from the laptop.
Yeah, completely destroyed the entire studio, which we then rebuilt 10 minutes ago.
Yes, so
if you could just let us know that everything works, that would be great. Because we've not tested anything. That would be awesome.
So what have you been up to today?
Well, yes, indeed. What have you been up to, more importantly, as you are obviously the busy one?
Yes. Well, I'll put my little news slide up.
Put the news slide up.
We haven't got any comments yet. I'm hoping people can hear us. Now, the thing is if people can't hear us, they can't hear us. Say, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, we need to learn sign language for...
Can you hear us? Surely someone would say, you're talking, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, of course they would.
So, I have been busy with doing some stalls this weekend. Oh, there's Louise. Hi, darling. Thank you. Glad you can hear us. I feel like I'm slouching today. Oh, right. Yeah. So that first picture after news is a little part of the stalls that I've been doing. So that has been, that's been really hectic. And the event on Friday night that I did a stall at, I heavily was involved in organising the event. So yeah, it's been busy. And then of course it's Black Friday. So Unique have got Black Friday deals on. So that's crazy busy with all of that. So if you're not in my first to know job and haven't been hearing about the Black Friday and want to, just put Y in the comments. And then Black Friday starts on Herbs on the Hill on Wednesday.
Yes.
So and so the prep work for that and all of that is underway now.
And you've done 2 physical stalls.
2 physical stalls, I have indeed.
In 2 days.
In 2 days, yeah. And also my sister-in-law stayed over, didn't she? And also we have Hunter. And also I did the PTA stuff.
You did. So you're somewhat washed out.
And I'm doing a course, which I forgot. I said to Tracy about the course, so she's like, "Do you want any more on your plate?" I was like, "Yeah." I don't know what I'm doing, but I did buy a ring.
That's okay then.
Well, yeah, but I'm gonna put myself back on the screen in big and show you it in a second in person. But what did Hunter say about my ring last night? You were there, weren't you?
What did he say? I forgot.
He said, "Yeah, oh, I thought it was bubble gum."
Oh yeah.
No, chewing gum.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought that was chewing. I said, he's a smooth talker. I said, "Oh, Hunter," I said, "Mummy's got a beautiful new ring to show you." And he said, "You know what else is beautiful, Mummy?" He said, "You are." But then when I showed him the
Nice.
ring, he went, "Oh, he said that's I just thought that was chewing gum."
He's got some work to go, yeah, but at least he's got the fundamentals in there.
Well, and he was doing magic. There's a live from last night actually where you can
Hunter's
see his
magic.
little magic tricks. And then bad news. So January, I've got to have surgery.
Which is very boring for you.
No, I'm so tired. Sorry, guys.
Well, you've got surgery, but you don't know what date. Actually, just that it's January.
Just that it's January, yeah.
So the course that you were planning to do is going to be delayed, but we don't know when till, because we don't know the dates of what's going on yet.
No, they rang, didn't they, and said, thanks. Yeah, I'm very tired, so Dan's going to do the majority of talking, and I'm just going to stay awake. This is my oh. Where's the camera?
Well, it's not. It's going to zoom into our face. That's what it's supposed to do.
Oh, I want it to zoom into my ring.
Oh God.
Because it's so pretty. Oh, it doesn't look so pretty. I mean, it is really pretty. Looks, there it is. It's bluer than that, though, isn't it, love, in real life?
Yeah. I'll just have to take your word for it.
They will have to. Oh no, it hasn't on our faces. There we go. Right. Anyway, so that's our news, isn't it, love?
Yes.
What did we do last week?
What you mean podcast wise?
Yes.
Core values.
Yes.
You did do core values. So maybe some of you did your core values, and maybe that has been in your minds and you've thought about it, or it's something that you've sort of worked on or something. So if that's the case, let us know. We've actually planned ahead of time for the first time ever, so we know what we're going to do next week, which we can briefly mention, just to say that we are going to be covering I don't know if saying it could be a popular topic, if that's the right wording to use for this, but we're going to talk about grief.
I think it's a super important topic, because what I've learned, having gone through some extensive grief recently, is that the Western world is shite with grief.
Not very good at talking about it or dealing with it or processing it or healthily discussing it, for sure. So that's what we want to do next week.
Yeah.
So that was just to give you a heads up, because we're not normally good at planning ahead, are we? We're always behind ourselves.
Which is so weird for you.
Well, because I'm working with you, isn't it? So today we're going to do the problem is choice. So we're going to be talking about programming and how that affects each and every one of us, because there isn't a single person alive that escapes programming. We're all both perpetrators and victims of the programmings, and there's a lot of programming around, and it comes from all different ways. Some of it might be obvious and some of it not so obvious, and it has a very large bearing on each and every one of us, and in all our relationships and in everything that we do. And there are positives and negatives to these things, and each person's positive might be different. But we're going to talk about it today and go into some detail. I have covered this before, long time ago, on a live, a good 5 years ago, and I've done it in a group. So I've literally condensed a hell of a lot of material into the shortest possible space, so that effectively years of talking and research has been condensed down into approximately 1 hour.
Hey, Han.
Hello, Hannah.
Yeah, it sounds sinister. I always think you talk about it, you make it sound really sinister. Because
that's the effect I have on topics.
Yeah, and I think it's because you are very invested and interested in the more sinister side of it, the more negative side of it. But just so you know, I mean, this is an evolutionary part of our brain, isn't it?
Absolutely, which we will definitely talk about.
Yeah, like we have to have the programming bit.
I think it's important to be aware of the bad side of it, because that is the side that unfortunately gets used the most, which for reasons we'll explain about. But first of all, what are we talking about? So the definition of programming, which is my definition, I'm not saying you can find this anywhere, other than my brain, the automated thoughts and actions that over time you have acquired via friends, family, work, media, religion, social media, so on and so forth, all those sort of things that you can think of. So you are not choosing you are acting on another person's will. So someone is influencing you, purposely or not. Someone is influencing you through one of those directions, and there's loads more you can add to that. And so rather than you do what you would do, you're doing what they would have you do, and you may be completely unaware of that. And it sounds like, oh, this only affects some people. Sometimes this is something that has affected you today, right? Doesn't even matter if you haven't been outside the house. If you've been in contact with any source of media of any description, whether you've read a book, read a magazine, watched TV, listened to the radio, spoken to another person, then you've been got at. I'm going to call it like that.
Got out. So you made it sound sinister again.
Oh.
And it's just a part of everyday life, but it's such an important topic, and it is a fundamental part of everything, because once you understand and know that, so we go around thinking that we have free will and that everything is our choice pretty much, but once you realize that's really kind of not the case, then you can start to unpick a lot of stuff, can't you?
So there is such a thing as free will. This is my opinion, right? There's such a thing as free will. However, most people don't use their free will. Most people think they use their free will, but not many people do. And when they do, it's rare and few and far between. Most people, if you have a very strong capability, I'm going to call it programming, but you can call it influence if you want to say. Like, there are influencers, right? What are influencers? They're just people who have a way of convincing a lot of people to do the same thing, right? So whether they're selling something to you, like Prime, for example, that's a prime example. Sorry. I had to use it because it just came straight to my head, so I said it.
That joke.
But that's a good example, isn't it? Prime, right? So because two influencers basically held up Prime on their lives or whatever, then all kids went mental for Prime, and Prime prices went from £2 a bottle to £200 a bottle. And now my son is obsessed with Prime and wants Prime, and every time we go anywhere, it's got to have a Prime, and he's saving up his money. And instead of spending his money in the arcades like any good kid should, he wants to buy special flavors of Prime. Well, that's a perfect example of programming. In this case, the most obvious form, which is media, which is trying to sell you something. Well, a lot of people are trying to sell you something, and they're very subtle about it, and you don't realize they're trying to sell you something. And maybe they don't even know they're trying to sell you something. They might be naturally gifted. I mean, what is a good salesman if it's not someone who can effectively make you, through words, through vibrations in their throat, make you buy what they want you to buy? I mean, that's the most basic, obvious form of programming.
But just so you know, we're not talking about just advertising here and talking about the effects of advertising and
no, that's just the obvious, easy one to think of.
That's just an easy example. We're really talking about societal, parenting, political, and media, and all of the things that has an impact on what you believe and how you act, and then starting to encourage you to unpick that. And at the end, we'll talk about, Dan's labelled it the remedy, so to speak. So
yeah. So programming at its most simple form is repetition. Okay. So think of the most recent examples of mass programming, right? In terms of like mass, I need you to do what I say, right? Well, the most obvious ones would be over COVID. They used the build back better. It's for your safety. This is the new normal. And these phrases were not picked by accident. Okay. These phrases were picked because of the impact they would have. And they weren't said by one person or by one news outlet. They were used universally in lockstep at the same time. The reason for that is because it wasn't randomly thought up. It was a message sent out from a central source, i.e. the government. This is what you need to say about this subject, right? So this is what's commonly called social engineering, which is just basically mass programming. So if you look up SAGE, which is the group that informed the government on the COVID stuff, and I'm not going into the political side of all this, but just you can look them up in your own good time. You will look at their qualifications for each member of SAGE. The qualifications they had were nothing to do with immunology or virology or anything like that. The majority of them, their qualifications were in psychology and forms of, let's call it social manipulation, right? Or advertisement, right? That was because they're called the nudge unit, right? That's what they literally refer to as the nudge unit. And so what their whole purpose was to direct society in whatever path they wanted it to go in. Whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. The whole purpose of here is to understand the fact that they were programming you, right? And you may agree with the programming or not is irrelevant. That's what they were doing. And that's not a sort of question of, oh, did they or didn't they? That they did do that. And then the secondary thing is whether you agree with it or not.
Can I just say, I
could tell. Go on.
No, I just came to me then. Can I just say that, like, as you start to unpick and realize that some of your thoughts are not your own as such. So we've talked about it, haven't we? And we even do it, like, because obviously everybody, no one's
this is I'm not being aware of it doesn't make you immune to it.
That's it.
Makes you resistant, but not aware, not immune.
Yeah. So where people read something in the paper or hear it in the news or whatever, and then like a few hours later they sort of say it as if that as fact of their own belief or opinion. And so this isn't. So what I would say is, when you butt up against something that you think, well, no, I believe that, I would just challenge you to like really, really sit with it. Like, because sometimes that defense mechanism can actually be because you don't truly believe in it, and that's why you get so defensive, because it's going to shatter your worldview, or isn't it? So Dan does this all the time. So he'll say something to me, and then I'll get angry at him because I'll be like, "That's ridiculous. No, it's this." And what I've learned is
the Mandela effect. You did that for. You got angry.
Yeah. And when you said you were going to be a vegan, no offense, vegans. And
I'm not, by the way.
No, and various other things, haven't I? Got angry. Mm-hmm. And every single time it's because what I do is I'm one of these people that go away and think about stuff. I've gone away and thought, and then realized that there's more to uncover.
Well, you're an emotional person, right? So your first reaction is always going to be with emotion.
Yeah.
And so you have the emotion comes out and finishes, and then you have the thought about it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, some people might start to explore this and then feel like I felt.
Yeah, this can trigger you for sure.
Yeah.
This can trigger you.
But triggering is good.
There's nothing wrong with triggering. In fact, you should aim to be triggered, because every time you get triggered, you can think, hang on a minute, why am I upset by some words? Like, words are only take an effect on you if you let them take effect on you, right? And they can only take effect on you. You can literally choose to be upset or not upset about words. You can say, well, I don't like your intention. That's different. But to actually be emotionally disturbed and upset by words, that's a choice by you, actually. And it doesn't matter what anyone says to you, even if it's really horrible. You can just be like, well, you're an idiot for saying that or thinking that. Like, you can just flick it off. But for some reason, words can badly affect you, which actually we are going to mention about later. So we talked about the common versions of that. So there's how many catchy adverts? I mean, I know you don't want me to use adverts too much, but I just wrote this down, so I'll just say it. Like, most of the branding stuff is obviously very catchy. You think of the McDonald's one, the Coca-Cola one, the Nike one. Like, there's loads of them, isn't there? And they're specifically designed to get into your brain.
Isn't Father Christmas red because of Coca-Cola?
Yeah, he was originally green, but he's red now because Coca-Cola advertisement made him red.
Yeah, so that was so catchy that we now think Father Christmas.
And that modern advert that they show every single year, that is like, it's a modern advert, but it's based in the past. That was their original, based on one of their original adverts.
Yeah.
So there are more complex versions, obviously, that are not just repetition. So you've got to look out for the subtle use of language, which is used to demonize, which can cast light or shadow on any number of things. You can report the same piece of news, whatever that is, in two completely different ways, depending on the wording you use and the emphasis you put on the words, right?
I got a good example of this.
Go on.
So this is a sales example. I normally use this when I'm training people, to talk about opportunity, but it's the same idea.
Yeah.
So there's this little story: two salesmen go to Africa, two shoe salesmen go to Africa. Okay, so the first one comes back and says, so they're just investigating whether there's a business opportunity there for their shoes. So he comes back and he goes into his boss's office and he says, no, he says, it's no good. He said, there's nothing there for us. He says, no one wears shoes. He says, dead end. The other guy, different part, comes back, goes into his boss's office, super excited, and says, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is the best opportunity. Nobody wears shoes. So it's the same piece of news. It's the same facts. It's the same thing. But the wording and the belief around it is different in the two guys and is presented to the boss. Now imagine if the boss only sent one person.
Yeah.
Like, so, potentially that's going to influence him to think differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a big point to make on this is that we have a conscious and subconscious mind, that 95% of the time that we are awake, we are not consciously thinking. Okay. So 95% of the time that you are walking about this earth, you are not consciously thinking. You're in your subconscious. Okay. So the conscious mind is that 5% is the creative part of the brain. That is the latest technology in brains, right? The neocortex, right? That is the latest bit of kit that the human brain has developed. That is your creative side. The speed of that, if anyone wants to know, is 40 bits a second, very slow, right? Compared to 40 million bits per second of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is a tape player and it records everything that happens in your life. Okay, everything that's said to you, every piece of media that you are bombarded by, and it soaks up all of it, and it does not critically assess the information, right? It just gets written down. So it's literally, imagine there's a little man in your head or a woman in your head, and everything that is being recorded, everything that is being said is being recorded. Everything you hear is being recorded, and she is not making any decisions or judgments on it. She's literally just writing verbatim. Okay. So many beliefs that we have of ourselves come from childhood programming, which is not intentional or unintentional. It could be either or both. This is often the root cause of feelings of unworthiness, low self-esteem, low confidence, and anxiety. Okay, so we often associate, if we develop an issue in our 20s, 30s, 40s, we just think of something recent that might have happened. But many of these things come back to childhood, right? A root cause of unworthiness is a common one, which seems to affect women more than men. Men seem to be naturally more confident, or more likely to be confident, let's say. But that unworthiness can come from a parental figure saying something or doing something that made you feel like you wasn't worth something. Now, it may not have been directly linked to that, but you as a child think of it in that way. Okay, the adult may not have done it in that with that intention, but you may have taken it in that way because you're a child. Okay, now if you want to do that, you can have a think back. Is there something in your childhood that you can remember that a parental figure said to you that stuck with you, that doesn't matter how old you are today, that you can remember today? Oh, I remember that time my parents said XYZ and it really made me feel bad. They may not, as I say, have been doing this on purpose, but it may have been an offhand comment and they've said it, and that's really stuck with you. And sometimes it can be something about your weight or something physical about yourself, or it can be, you're in some way made you feel like a disappointment, or in some way that you wasn't doing something you should be doing. Like you've disappointed your parent figure in some way or other. That root doesn't, if it's not resolved healthily, that just stays with you. It doesn't do anything other than sprout into a weed.
And just as an example of that, but not as sinister.
Not as sinister,
no. Is that when you get older and then and everyone kind of says like, oh, I sound just like my mum if they have kids, because they repeat the same phrases. And that is purely what you're talking about, but not, not with those negative feelings attached. But so for example, I can always remember, like, oh, it's like Blackpool illuminations in here, like that saying, because of leaving lights on. Yeah. Now I've said that to Hunter. He doesn't even know what I'm talking about. Like,
and you didn't think that you didn't think about it when you said it. You just said it.
Yeah. I didn't, and there's many things that pop out your mouth like that, isn't there, that have come from parents or people that you've been around a lot, that where it's, like you say, been recorded on the tape.
We're going to touch on this because we're going to do some form of like parental thing, aren't we? Like a parental discussion about being parents, or what, the psychology in that sort of thing.
Yeah, and attachment, which would be totally separate.
Which would be separate, but so it does sort of cross over a little bit, because it's not a choice. You are always programming everyone around you and yourself every day. It's not a choice. It can be a choice, but it's not a choice most of the time, because most of the time, 95% to be exact, you're not even consciously thinking, let alone deciding whether or not the influence you're having on the person next to you is potentially destructive or not. And I'm not sure that you necessarily want to live that way, but you might want to be mindful of it, because if you're talking to your child, you might not want to, at least on purpose, make them feel like they're unworthy or not. We all make mistakes and say things in the moment, and you think, oh, I shouldn't have said that. It could take it that way or whatever. Like, that's easy to do. But you don't want to be sort of like stomping around completely blind, just sort of smashing everything over sort of thing, when it comes to psychology either. So I think this is where it can be of value. This is where this sort of thing can be of value.
Bull in a china shop, as my mother would say.
Yeah, well, she probably was.
The other thing was, so I did some training in America, and the part of it was, so like if somebody's got a fear of, say, public speaking, for example, often that comes from, actually, because you're not born with that fear.
No.
You're only born with the fear of falling and loud noises, aren't you? So any other fear has been programmed into you.
And I still don't like either of those two things.
I was going to do a really loud noise.
No, don't do it.
And push you off the sofa. But yeah, baby can't be scared of like flying, spider. So the it's programming in it for spiders.
Yeah. So Hunter, when he was when he came to us, he would allow a spider any size to run across his face, over his head. He didn't care.
Yeah.
But when your mum started, because your mum hated spiders, when she started reacting, he reacted straight away. He learned fear of spiders through your mother.
But he is a bit better, because we try not to.
Well, I don't react to spiders at all.
No, and I try not to.
And you only scream a few times.
No, I'm not too bad. But yeah, so but it can come from feeling embarrassed. A fear is often rooted in embarrassment. So if you've got a fear of, like, public speaking, for example, it could be because of, like, you were made to do I think of Hunter being made to do the school
you
plays.
Could be publicly shamed. By publicly shamed, that might be a parental figure in front of your family, like shaming you in some way. So therefore you're afraid of being in public and having the spotlight on you. I mean,
have you got something from your childhood?
I can't think of an incident. I can't think of a specific incident. I can think of some phrases that I remember.
Yeah.
Which I can remember. Therefore, we're talking when I was like 10 or something.
Yeah.
So I'm 42 now. So I obviously, if I've remembered that phrase, lots of phrases were said in my childhood, but I remember that one.
Are you going to say it? Or?
Okay. My dad referred to me as being fat once, so I remembered that. So there's that one.
Okay.
Have you got any?
I had an uncle that did that. Every time he walked in the room, I hated it. Actually, he was a great uncle.
Well,
not a great. What an amazing uncle! I mean, as in a great.
He was a terrible uncle, but he was also a great uncle.
Yeah, he wasn't my uncle, direct uncle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, there's stuff like that all the time, isn't it? I mean.
Well, so we have this negative bias thing, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So. And this is another thing to think about with programming, and it's for evolution. So it's to keep you safe. So it's so that we need to be aware of the danger around us, or we did do, when we were cave people and all of that. And so our subconscious mind is searching for the danger, the negative, all of that kind of stuff. And so, for example, you can go to work for the day, and you can have an all right day, and then a work colleague can say something offhand to you that makes you feel a certain way. When you get home from work and your other half says to you, how's your day at work been? Invariably, you'll say terrible. And it'll be purely because of that one moment, that 30-second interaction, that one thing. But actually, if you were to go back and unpick the day, there's probably many great things that happened, but our subconscious mind likes to pick up on.
It has a bias towards negative information.
So it's a fact known that negative news is believed it to be more truthful. So people, if you put up a load of different news stories and then ask different people about their validity, all the negative ones are thought to be, like, the brain says it's truthful, because like Dan says, it doesn't critically assess. But the only thing it kind of critically assesses, it doesn't critically assess it, but I guess it doesn't categorize it, but it literally lights up over negative stuff as opposed to the positive stuff.
Well, we're designed, our brains are designed to solve problems, right? So to find a problem, you've got to look for the problem.
Yeah.
So your brain is looking for the problem all the time.
All the time.
And if there isn't a problem, it'll find one, as in it'll create one.
Yeah. So what I would say is journaling, and this will come up through loads, and why it's so powerful is because if you get home from work and you journal, it unpicks that day a little bit more. And especially when you're aware of this, then you start to realize, actually it wasn't a terrible day, that was a terrible moment.
Yeah.
And the same with childhood and things that have happened in the past and stuff, and all of that stuff. Right, yeah, that's me.
In regards to how you are programmed, unfortunately, the strongest way to program someone is through fear. Fear is our mechanism for safety,
because of
to protect ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
And so fear is the easiest way to program another person, or to convince someone to do whatever it is that you want them to do. If you're warning someone of some kind of danger, even if they can't see the danger, I mean, you might have seen the YouTube videos where there's pretend danger, right? Someone just jumps up in the air and pretends there's a snake. Like, well, you don't have to see the snake. You can't see the snake. The snake's not even there. There is no snake. But you react as though there is danger. You have a heart attack. And you run out
like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love
them.
I've done that by accident though. We were on holiday once, me and the girls, and we were in a room that had loads of windows all the way around, and someone thought they saw something, so their face just went like that, and everyone in the room went like that.
But if she just sort of laughed or smiled, they'd have just gone, "Oh, what are you laughing at?"
Yeah,
There wouldn't have been any reaction with her. So unfortunately, that is a big reason why the media is how it is, because bad news sells and fear programs your mind and wires it up nicely. So just be wary and consciously observant of that if you want to avoid that. So why are people going around programming the hell out of each other?
Sorry, I don't find you boring. I'm so tired.
Yeah, I know, you're barely conscious. So the simple one-word answer to that is control. So human beings naturally have a tendency to want to control. The reason that human beings want to control is, again, fear and safety, because if you can control everyone around you, then you're safe, because they can't harm you because you're in control of them. But very fundamentally, I'm not saying this is a conscious thought in anyone's head, but deep down, the need of human beings to control other human beings, to control their thoughts, control their actions, control how the world is, that desire and need for control mostly stems from fear for your own safety, fear for things not going your way. It is a fear-based
survival instinct
problem.
No.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you want to change the world to create outcomes that further what I would like, what it comes out further, what I would like, usually it would just be me, as in I would be the person furthering my own will. I'd be the person furthering what I want, right? That's really hard to achieve. If I want to go and do something myself, I can achieve it, but it's much harder to do it just on my own. But if I can program you, if I can program other people, if I can start up a movement or get a group together, think of all the groups there are in the world.
Oh,
There's many
like
of them.
cults.
Or cults, yeah. Just Stop Oil is the most famous one at the moment. If I can get a large number of people who all agree with me, and I can convince them, if I can use my language skills to perpetrate my will, then all of a sudden what I want is going to happen in the world is a lot easier to do. It's going to happen much faster, and it's going to be much more effective. So it could be one person to one person. It could be a government to an entire nation. If you want something done, you need to direct people's mind to your will and get them to do what you want. Now, this can be used in all kinds of nasty ways and horrible ways, and it often is, which is why the world is the way it is. But it can also be used in lots of positive ways, right? It can be used for benevolent reasons. It can further positive goals. It doesn't all have to be doom and gloom. Like Izzy says, it doesn't have to be for sinister reasons.
Well, and we're going to talk about the remedy. Like, that's the next thing, isn't it? But I find this little study really powerful in explaining how unaware we are of the way that subconscious mind works.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the biggest battle, because we believe we know our own minds, we believe we know who we are,
Overconfident,
all of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, because we will be doing a podcast about the ego, won't we? Mm-hmm. which is linked with this, really. So an experiment done by psychologists at Yale to see if they can alter people's behavior. So the study's participants were college students, and they had no idea that their social instincts were being deliberately manipulated. Now, this is not with any words. This is crazy. So on the way to the laboratory, on the way to the lab, they bumped into a laboratory.
They bumped into a Labrador.
They bumped into a lab assistant holding textbooks, a clipboard, papers, and a cup of hot or iced coffee. So some people bumped into someone with a hot coffee. Some people bumped into someone with an iced coffee. And that person asked for a hand because they had all this stuff, and they would always hand them the cup. So someone is receiving either a hot coffee or an iced coffee in this experiment. And that was all it took. So the students who held a cup of iced coffee rated the hypothetical person they later read about as being much colder, less social, and more selfish than the people that held the hot cup.
Oh, okay.
So the whole, literally, because their body was experiencing cold, their negative, their subconscious.
That is a subtle form of what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. But imagine that, though. That meant that they immediately formed that opinion on that person. And so it just goes to show that the nuances that are out there that we're probably not even aware of.
It's mostly not decision-making on the human being's part.
No.
It's mostly to do with everything that's already been recorded on the subconscious tape, and then stimuli.
And can I just say that for people that are interested, the same person was used. So it's not that they used two different people that potentially one was a bit cold or what. They literally used the same person. It was just the different cups. So yeah, it's funny. I find that really gets in my brain, that one.
There's loads of good experiments to do with behavior. If you Google or you go on YouTube or whatever and look at behavioral experiments, there's loads of all different ones on there. They're really interesting, and you'll see just how easy it is. There's one, I haven't prepared this. One just sprung back into my mind. There's a woman in the reception of a doctor's, and what they did for this behavior, this is how easy it is to program someone's mind, right? So all the people in there are actors bar one, right? So in this case, it's this lady,
Oh
right?
my God, I remember this, yeah.
And what they do is every time there's a bell, 9 actors stand up, but she doesn't know they're actors. She thinks they're all waiting for the doctor. So they all stand up every time there's a bell, and then they sit down. Now, in the beginning, the first time, she doesn't do it, but she looks around and thinks, why are all these people standing up and then sitting down? The next time the bell goes off, they all stand up and she stands up, but she doesn't know why she's doing it, but she looks around, they're all doing it, right? They sit down again. They keep doing that, and then they replace the actors over time with new actors, and then it gets to the point where all of them, they've all been in and out. Then they whittle the actors down, and then there's only hair left. Then they start bringing in people who are real people into the office, and she passes on the behavior to them.
She tells them, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She starts standing up.
Yeah.
When the bell goes and
says
passes it on, and then if they don't do it, she's getting them up.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know why she's doing that. She was programmed to do that by other people just standing up, and that's all it takes to program another person's mind. So if you think you're immune to it, or you think it doesn't affect you, or that it's never happened to you, or that it rarely happens to you, it happens to you every day. You're just not aware of it happening to you.
I thought you were going to mention the really famous one with programming with the prison guards.
Oh yeah, the prisoner. Yeah, that's a notorious one.
Yeah, so that's where
I think we made a film about it.
We did watch a film about it. Yeah, so that's where they got a group of people, didn't they, in the experiment, and they made some of them prisoners and some of them prison guards, and that was it. Wasn't it?
All it took was to put on the uniforms or both for them to act like that.
Very interesting. I would recommend watching that.
I think
sure.
I want to say it's the Milgram experiment, but I'm not 100% because that just came to my mind.
Okay.
I might have been programmed by someone else.
Yeah.
Just be aware of that. So what is the remedy, right? How can you? So I like to refer to all these different programs that are flying around. I like to call them apps to make it simple, right? Think of an app on your phone, right? So how do you install all these control apps that are being installed unwittingly onto your hard drive, right? And how do you start installing protection, like from all this stuff, like what I would like to call sovereignty apps, like your personal sovereignty. Like think of yourself as a mini country, and you've got like your borders sort of thing, and you don't want all these random apps just being installed, right? So you cannot uninstall control apps if you cannot identify them. So this is where you have to really just sit and think about what sort of apps are on your hard drive, as it were. Which ones do you like and which ones don't you like? Okay, which ones are okay to be there and which ones do you not want to be on there? Anything that redirects your behavior from what you would like to do to the purpose of what the control app is telling you to do is something to consider. So that's how you identify it. That's the context for it. So you might have, for example, been programmed to support Liverpool FC like I was, right? I'm still a Liverpool fan, by the way, but I recognize and accept that that is programming. I wasn't born to support Liverpool. I would support Liverpool because that's where I'm from. That's where most of my family's from. And you're either a red or a blue. I love football. I love playing football. But as a kid, I didn't know anything about it until I hit a certain age. Then all my friends love football. So I love football because all my friends did. So I was programmed by them, and that's okay. I recognize that, but it's not a malicious app, right? It's not doing me any harm.
Sinister.
It's not sinister. It's not doing anything wrong. I just recognize it now as that's what it is. It's just an app that's installed like any other thing that you might have joined, like a religion. I'm not dismissing your religion or saying it's not true, by the way, but I'm just saying, nevertheless, you're not born with religion, are you? Therefore, it must come from outside to you. So if it comes from outside to you, it's been downloaded into your subconscious, right? So therefore, anything that is a religion or an ideology, or if you're patriotic, or where you go to eat, or what you wear, what's trendy, what's not trendy, all of those things are apps. And you may agree or disagree with any one of those things, but just be aware that that's what they are, okay? And make the conscious decision, not the subconscious decision, on whether you want them there or not, whether they're doing you any favors or not.
My parents were both atheists, so I was raised as an atheist, and then at some point as a teenager, I took myself to church. And in the end, I mean, I would say, I don't know, I don't believe in like Christianity, you know, I'm not, but I am, I don't know how to classify myself, but I'm certainly not an atheist.
You believe in God, but not a religion, so you're a deist.
my dad's atheism was strong, wasn't it? But his atheism actually comes sadly from abuse from the church.
Yeah, his was personal.
Childhood, yeah. And so he was very vehement about it, wasn't he? Vehement about it. And so he brought me up like that.
Yeah.
But
well, that was his programming to you, right? So his as Audrey says, learned behavior. Yeah.
I reckon you need glasses.
Well, no, it's just the way the light things in my
head. Is it?
Anyway.
But anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to say, like, I don't know why I wanted to say that, but I felt like it was important.
You just felt the need to blurt that out.
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Evaluate them critically. So just becoming mindful of what you hear, where it comes from, and why you are hearing it can go a very long way in preventing yourself from becoming someone else's avatar. So put on the other image.
I was going to say, that's my cue, isn't it? I'm just slow. I'm coming. All right, here it comes.
So this, like the title of our podcast today, this comes from one of the Matrix films, okay? I'm not sure if you're going to be able to read the words of that. I'm not sure I can read the words of that.
No, you need glasses. Can you not read it?
I can, but I have to be about here, I think.
Oh my God, I can read it all the way back here.
Oh, can you? Well, you've got glasses on.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. So we're going to do a role play, aren't we, love?
Oh my God. I mean, I wasn't going to, but...
You're going to be Morpheus and I'm going to be the Merovingian.
And then we're going to explain why this is important, because this is a classic case of programming and full explanation. The entire podcast could have just been this, really.
So I've got to be French.
Like, you're not actually going to do the accent, are you?
Mademoiselle Louis.
Oh my God. Right, okay. So, meet the Merovingian, right? So, you know why we are here.
I wasn't making that. That's Morpheus. You know why you're here.
I'm not acting, I'm just reading it.
I am. I am a trafficker of information. I know everything I can. The question is, do you know why you are here?
That's actually better than what you did before. We are looking for the keymaker.
Yeah, well, I'm in performance mode now. Oh, he didn't say that. Oh, yes, it is true. The keymaker, of course. But this is not a reason. This is not a why. The keymaker himself, his very nature, is a means, not an end. And so to look for him is to be looking for a means to do what?
To do what? Anyway, Neo says, because I'm now Neo as well.
Split personality.
You know the answer to that question.
But do you? You think you do, but you do not. We are here because you were sent here. You were told to come here, and then you obeyed. It is, of course, the way of all things. You see, there is only one constant, one universal. It is the only real truth. Causality.
Casualty is the only real truth. There's a TV show that used to be on a Sunday. Yeah, go on.
Let's got all the universal truth.
Brilliant.
Causality. Action, reaction, cause, effect.
Everything begins with choice.
No, wrong. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without. And this is the nature of the universe. We struggle against it. We fight to deny it. But it is, of course, pretend it is like, no, it is a lie. Causality, there is no escaping it. We are forever slaves to it. Our only hope, our only peace is to understand the why. Why is the only real source of power. Without it, you are powerless. And this is how you come to me. Without why, without power, another link in the chain.
The end bit doesn't matter. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't really finish very well.
So what the Merovingian, who literally is the name of an ancient Italian family who were elites of that society and controlled that society, he's literally saying in that thing is that if you don't know your why, if you don't understand why you are doing something, why you are saying something, if you are effectively just running around because someone has ordered you to do so, even right now, you may be in your life doing things effectively because someone has told you to do it, then you've got no power. You are powerless because you are not even understanding why have you gone here and done this? Why have you said that? You've not said it because you decided to, and you've not done it because you decided to. You've done it because you were sent there and you were told to say that by the newsman, by the weatherman, by next door neighbor, by your friend or your family. And so you're not acting on your own thoughts and your own conscience and your own awareness. You are effectively being used as an avatar. You might as well give up your body and start again, come back, go away and come back again, start again, try again. Because this time round you've been controlled and manipulated, and this time round your will is being used by somebody else, and that's what the Merovingian is trying to get at there. He's saying to, in that scenario in that film, Neo's running around because the Oracle told him to. Therefore, he doesn't understand why he's doing anything. He doesn't understand why he's there. And in that case, he's literally looking for a key, although it was represented by a human being. So I thought that was a very good way of explaining that.
Especially with the acting.
Yes, your acting really sold it and didn't distract from the message at all.
No.
So I would say, to conclude on this, develop a strong understanding of what freedom truly means. Like, it's just it's a word now, just banded around. The word itself seems to hold no power with anyone. And, you know, people talk about recently, you know, we had Armistice Day and all that stuff, and we remember the people who gave their lives for our freedom. But what does that actually mean to anyone, especially these days? Does it mean anything to anyone? Does anyone even really think about the actual thought of another human being, whether they were rightfully or wrongfully doing this, going over a trench for someone else's freedom, right? What's that freedom actually mean? Like, if you have to just actually spend time to actually imagine that and see how important freedom is, and your own personal sovereignty, anything that infringes upon it, anything that infringes upon it will then be seen with automatic suspicion rather than acceptance. Okay, if you hold freedom to such importance that anything that infringes upon it, it'll just light up like a neon sign. Like, why is someone trying to take that snippet of my freedom? What's behind that? Why would you do that? It's quite often comes from obviously a controlling entity or person or force, let's call it. And you will then effectively develop your own antivirus software for your own mind to stop all these programs coming in. And that is how I wanted to finish that, on a sinister note.
And on a less sinister note, so it's also just the alarm bells. So I want to use my dad as an example, isn't it? So my dad could be quite critical, and he was especially critical over food and meals served up by my mum, not by me, by my mum, and the temperature of food.
Yes.
And so I've spent my entire life panicking about what I cook and absolutely creating chaos in the kitchen to try and get food absolutely steaming hot, haven't I, to
all
the
at
table.
The same time.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed yesterday when I served up our dinner, when we had trace round and we did the pie and mash, that I had the mash out for quite a long time.
No,
because I'm learning. Like, the alarm bell goes when I start thinking like, and I realize that's my dad. My dad has installed that program on me, and it's not relevant and it's not necessary. The food is hot enough but my dad literally, it had to be like,
yeah, it had to be molten.
Yeah, it had to be like, I was going to say, it had to be on the same level as lava.
Yeah, think of a McDonald's apple pie, the inside of a McDonald's apple pie. All food had to be that temperature.
On the plate, yeah.
On the plate, yeah. If it didn't take the roof of your mouth off, then send it back to the microwave.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so I'm gradually trying to uninstall that program from my...
You've got 1,000,001 from your dad, haven't you?
Yes.
So
he was critical, and he used...
he was controlling, wasn't he?
He was controlling, yeah. And because of his own experiences, he was narcissistic, and so he had to manipulate, and the best way to do it is through fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he feared me, scared me, feared me.
He feared you up a treat, didn't he?
Yeah, he feared me up a treat.
He did.
And the other thing I just wanted to bring up flat Earth.
Okay.
Do.
Not because either one of us believe in flat Earth, by the way.
No, the opposite. Well, sort of the opposite. I wanted to put that on the end because I want to challenge you to be open-minded with everything now. So
that's not to say that you have to go and be a flat earther to prove that you're open-minded, only to consider the possibility of the most obscure, obscene, or whatever it may be. Like, just consider the weird and wonderful with new perspective. Just give it the weird and wonderful a chance.
Yeah, like, because I use flat Earth because it's so ridiculed that pretty much everyone's immediate reaction is ridicule and laughter.
Ridicule, derision.
Yeah, and that is a program being given to you. Because if I say to Hunter, what is the Earth? Like, he does now because he's done it in school, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But originally he believed it was flat, just from a child's perspective. And we could have installed any program into him. If we said it enough, we could have made him believe it was a triangle, couldn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, only the other day I forgot this. So my mum installed in Hunter the program that the moon was cheese.
Yes.
So he came home the other day, said to me in the car, he went, do you know what the moon's made of? And I said, like, almost jokingly, I was like, oh, cheese, isn't it? And he went, no. He said, actually, it's rock and it's this and it's that. Like, and he was like, you didn't know that, did you, mummy? You need to go back to school. So yeah, I mean, so there's us jokingly telling him it's made of cheese, and he, until school told him it was made of stone, he actually believed it was cheese.
Well, so kids until the age of 7, and this happens to all people until the age of 21. Kids until the age of 7 specifically have zero capability of critically assessing information. They're sponges for information, designed that way, and they just trust what their caregivers say. So whatever their caregiver says, whoever that may be, parent, whatever, whoever that person is, whatever they say goes, basically. That's for their own survival, that they have to not argue with every bit of information that's given to them. And you only have full critical capabilities when you're 21. That is when the human brain is 100% developed. Only at that point can you actually block out information completely. Until then, it's a matter of degree as to how much you can block out.
So yeah, flat Earth. I use that as an example because that should put everyone's alarms on.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh my god, flat Earth!" Yeah.
Can't believe they said it. And therefore, whilst we don't believe in flat Earth, what I would say to you is I also don't believe the Earth is round. Because it's not. I don't have a belief. I'm just open-minded because I actually don't know. So I'm not believing NASA and all the scientists. I don't believe the flat earthers. I'm keeping my mind open these days because I'm not really sure. So
it's an exercise in deprogramming. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Overcome your programmed emotional responses and just try and look at it unbiased and try and, like, why would you just mock a piece of information? You could say, well, I don't believe in it, but why would you mock it? Like, just think about the stuff behind it and think where that might have come from. Laura says, did your dad's narcissistic streak negatively affect your relationship? Yes and no. I would say early on it did. Then after a few years, I said to you, like, your dad's saying these things, blah blah blah. We discussed it, and then we observed it together. Let's say we observed the behavior to prove it was true and happening, and then from then on, he thought he was saying things that might affect him, and it didn't most of the time. However, there was this one time at Christmas where he managed to get us to argue about money, and we did not ever argue about money, and we have never argued about money, and that is the one and only time we've ever argued about money. Me and Kizzy do not argue about money. We have a joint bank account.
And it's all mine.
It just goes in there because he spends it all. And we all know the rules, and we're all happy with that. So I would say he attempted. So a narcissist, we will do a podcast on narcissism and empathy because the two are often linked in terms of not in the same person, but the two people are often linked. I'll just briefly say on narcissism. A narcissist likes to create as much destruction around them as possible, as much conflict and turmoil. They'll pit people against each other, and they like to do that as much as possible. And it may seem like, well, why would he do that with his own family and all that? Well, family is the most perfect way. They're harvesting energy all the time off the chaos and destruction, and they like to keep everyone divided so that no teams form up that could discuss behind the scenes what he's saying or doing in that scenario. Because narcissists hate people working together, because they like to be able to tell one story and another person another story on the same thing, and they don't want you two getting together when he's not around saying, "Oh, have you heard this? What Mike said?" and blah blah blah. So narcissists do attack relationships, even if it's their daughters.
Well, and my dad's narcissism has affected my entire life.
Absolutely.
And shaped my entire life, both positively and negatively, which will all come out when we do the narcissistic live, I expect. Just what did I say? Oh, Joe, how do you find your podcast? This is it. So it's a live cast, really, but we're just sticking with the word podcast. It's on the Mindset Magic Facebook page, so you can scroll back to see past ones. Some of them are on the YouTube channel, and all of them will be on by the end of this week. So we've also got a Mindset,
and they will be on Rumble eventually.
Mindset Magic YouTube channel, and they're every Sunday 9:00, and they'll be on my Facebook wall that you can.
And at the moment, it's a live masquerading as a podcast. We did put it out there in the first few episodes. Would you prefer in this format or on a podcast format, whereby there's no interaction? We record something and then do it. Well, I say most, everyone. There wasn't a single person who said in the podcast format they wanted it in the live format. So we're doing it in the live format. Laura says, I think that is a narcissist aware of their behavior. Does that make them bad people?
No, a narc is aware. Yeah, a narcissist.
I think that's what a narcissist. Right.
Yeah, a narcissist is aware of their behavior. Does that make them bad people? Well, I personally, for me, so my dad, I don't believe was a born narcissist. He was a created narcissist through some very horrible trauma that he went through, and so narcissism for him was born out of survival, protection, and so no, he was not a bad person at all, and it's very complex. I have very complex emotions with my dad because of that. But I also do think there are some narcissists that, who are bad people.
There are people who are narcissists pretty much from birth. I don't know. So I don't think they know.
No, I don't think they're aware.
I don't think if you're talking about the narcissist themselves, right? I don't think a narcissist thinks they're a narcissist, because that would require them to view themselves objectively.
And they can.
And they don't.
That's a trait of a narcissist, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there is also what they called the M1s. You've got your sociopath, your psychopath, your narcissist.
Your Machiavellian.
That's it, your Machiavellian. So sometimes people, I would say
you have got your dark empath.
The word narcissist is thrown about too much now.
Yeah, we'll do a podcast on narcissism, and then we can cover it properly, because I think the definition of narcissism needs to be top of the podcast, because a lot of people have their own idea of what a narcissist is because it's thrown around so much.
Yeah, a little bit now, because ADHD is popular on TikTok. And so now everyone's diagnosing with ADHD in adulthood. Now, I'm not saying, of course, there's a percentage of that's true. Same with narcissists and narcissism. But I would also say that is grown in popularity and is bandied around a little too loosely.
There's a disproportionate amount, let's just say, if you're looking at the numbers of people who now identify as that, let's say.
Yeah, in our opinions, but of course we could be programming you.
Yes. Or yes, where does the program start with that? From which angle? Well, multiple angles in that regard.
Oh well, Laura, look out then for our narcissist. Says I've got a lot of questions. I'll read it for you, love, because you ain't got your glasses.
I read it already. Wasn't listening to see. Yes.
What about the lot of questions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll do a narcissism and empath, and the reason we'll do narcissism and empath is that the favorite prey of a narcissist is an empath. So you'll often the most common scenario is a narcissist man with a empath female. That's the most common, and it's obviously not the only one. And you can
narcissist women,
narcissist parents or siblings or whatever. Like, it's all different relationship angles you can look at narcissism from.
Partners.
We'll probably do the most common one just to make it easy for everyone to discuss, which will be a partner, and we'll do the most common one, which will probably be the narcissist man. But anyway, there are various types of malevolent and benevolent behaviors. That is only one of them. Or if you look at empathy, there's two of them. And I mean, most people like to identify as an empath, but if you actually read what the definition of an empath is, most people aren't empaths, actually.
That's another bandied word.
That's another one. Oh, a lot of them are. When you really get down in the nitty gritty, a lot of people just live purely in illusion one way or another.
Okay,
on that sinister note.
Yeah, my attempt to divert you from sinister notes
did not work.
Right, shall we say goodnight? Because this pillow is calling.
Yeah. Before Kizzy passes out, we'd like to say goodnight and thank you for watching. And we will be doing next week grief, more than likely, and probably, but not certainly, the week after, probably the narcissist empathy one. Because I like the sound. I'm in the mood for doing that one.
Okay. Well, good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.